Ladies and gentlemen, I want to talk to you today about something we often avoid. Something that sits in silence, hiding behind smiles and small talk. Something real, and that is depression. Now, I'm not here as a therapist. I'm not here with a list of quick fixes. I'm here as a human being, someone who understands the power of hope, purpose, and connection. Because the truth is, depression doesn't just take your happiness, it robs you of your why. Let's start with that. Depression is not sadness. Sadness is natural. It comes when something goes wrong. You lose someone. You fail at something. You get rejected, but it passes. Depression, it stays. It whispers lies like, you're not good enough. It convinces you to believe in a world where nothing matters. But here's what I want you to hear. You are not broken. You are not weak. You are not alone. One of the most dangerous parts of depression is isolation. It convinces you that no one could possibly understand what you're going through. So you hide, you withdraw, and the longer you stay alone, the louder the lie becomes. But we are not wired for isolation. We are wired for connection. We need people. We need to feel like we belong. We need to feel seen. And yet, when we're depressed, we feel invisible. So how do we start to overcome it? We start by saying 3 powerful words: I need help. And I know those are the hardest words to say, but vulnerability is not a weakness, it's a bridge. It connects you to people who want to stand beside you. Friends, family, therapists, people who can remind you that you matter. When you lose your sense of why, when the world turns gray, you need someone to remind you of your value, of your purpose, because purpose is the antidote to despair. When we have a reason to get out of bed, even when we don't feel like it, we start to move forward. And no, it doesn't mean you'll wake up tomorrow full of joy. It means you'll wake up with intention. Maybe your reason is small today: getting out of bed, brushing your teeth, calling a friend. That's okay. That's how healing begins, one step, one moment, one breath at a time. Let me tell you something else. Your depression is not your identity. It's something you're experiencing, like a storm, and storms pass. But while you're in it, don't try to fight it alone. Surround yourself with people who won't try to fix you, but who will simply sit with you in the rain. And above all, be kind to yourself. We speak to ourselves in ways we would never speak to another human being. What if you began to talk to yourself like someone you love? What if, instead of judgment, you offered compassion? So no, there is no magic formula, no shortcut, but there is hope, and there is help, and there is healing, and it all begins not with trying to change everything at once, but with remembering one thing: depression is not sadness. It's the loss of meaning and connection. There's a dangerous misconception in our culture that depression is just about being sad, that it's an exaggerated version of a bad mood. But that's not what depression is. Sadness is temporary. Sadness has a cause. You can usually point to it. You lose a job, you go through a breakup, you get disappointing news. And you feel sad. That's normal, that's human. But depression is something else entirely. It's the absence of feeling. It's when you wake up and nothing moves you, not joy, not fear, not even pain. It's a kind of emotional paralysis, and the most terrifying part. It convinces you that this numbness is your new reality, that this is all life will ever be. What really happens in depression is that people lose their sense of meaning. It's not just that they don't feel happy, it's that they don't feel anything has a purpose. Your job feels empty, your relationships feel like effort, your goals feel irrelevant. It's not that you don't want to try, it's that you can't find a reason to try. That's why depression is so dangerous. It doesn't just make you feel low, it strips you of your why. And this why, this sense of purpose, it's not a luxury, it's a human necessity. It's what gives us energy, direction, and resilience. When we feel like what we do matters, we can endure almost anything. But when we don't believe we matter, even small tasks become unbearable. And that's the silent thief of depression. It steals your belief in your own value. But here's what we often miss. The real root of this loss of meaning is usually a loss of connection. Human beings are social creatures. We thrive in relationships, in community, in contribution. When we feel disconnected from people, from purpose, from ourselves, we begin to unravel. That's where depression takes hold. It's not always about what happened to you. It's about what you've lost the ability to feel. This is why overcoming depression starts not with forcing yourself to feel better, but with understanding what you've lost and what needs to be rebuilt. It begins with compassion, with the courage to say, "This isn't just sadness. This is something deeper, and I need help." That moment of honesty is not a breakdown. It's the beginning of recovery. Because once you name it, you can begin to face it. And when you face it, you can begin to heal. Not by pretending everything is fine, but by reconnecting with what makes life meaningful. That might start with a conversation, a walk, a moment of quiet reflection. And from there, brick by brick, you rebuild a connection to life, to people, to yourself. One of the cruelest things about depression is how convincing it is. It doesn't shout at you, it whispers. It doesn't come at you with arguments. It seeps in slowly, like fog, blurring the edges of everything you once believed about yourself. And the most dangerous lie it tells is this: that you are the problem. It tells you that you're broken, that something inside you is defective, that you are fundamentally different from everyone else, and not in a good way. It convinces you that while others are out living meaningful lives, you are just stuck. That lie is powerful, because when you start to believe that your struggle is a reflection of your character, you begin to lose hope. You stop trying, you stop reaching out, and slowly you begin to accept this distorted version of reality as the truth. But it's not the truth. Depression is not who you are. It's something you are going through. Just like a person with a broken leg is not defined by the cast on their leg, you are not defined by the weight you're carrying. But when you're in it, it's so easy to forget that. This is why I say, you are not broken, you are not weak, and above all, you are not alone. The reality is, millions of people who seem fine on the outside, are fighting internal battles every day. They laugh at jokes, they show up to work, they post smiling photos, and yet, they carry the same weight you do. The problem is, no one talks about it. So each of us believes we are suffering alone. And that loneliness, it magnifies the pain, because when we feel isolated, we assume no one could possibly understand us. We assume our pain is unique and therefore unsolvable. But the moment someone says, "Me too," everything changes. Suddenly, you're not isolated anymore. You're human. You're part of something shared, and in that moment the lie begins to crack. This is why community matters. This is why speaking up matters. Not because talking fixes everything, but because silence feeds the lie. And once you realize that the thoughts in your head are not facts, that the voice telling you you're not enough is not telling the truth, you take the first step toward reclaiming your self-worth. You are not weak for feeling what you feel. In fact, living with depression and still finding the strength to keep going is a sign of extraordinary courage. Most people will never understand what it takes to face the day when everything inside you says there's no point. But you do it every day. That's not weakness, that's resilience. So the next time the voice in your head tells you that you're broken, remind yourself you are still here. That means you're stronger than you think. And that's something depression can never take from you. Dealing begins with the words, "I need help." Asking is strength, not weakness. We live in a culture that praises independence, that tells us we should be able to handle everything on our own. That asking for help is a sign of failure, of weakness, of not having it all together. And when you're struggling with depression, this message becomes especially dangerous. Because the moment you most need others is often the moment you feel least worthy of their time. Depression clouds your thinking. It makes you believe that reaching out will burden people, that no one will understand, or worse, that no one will care. But the truth is, asking for help is not weakness. It's courage. It takes far more strength to admit you're not okay than to pretend everything is fine. Those 3 words, "I need help," might be the most powerful words a person can say. Not because they magically make everything better, but because they are the first step in reconnecting with the world outside your mind. And that connection is where healing begins. When you say, "I need help," you are not giving up. You are beginning again. You are acknowledging that your brain is lying to you and choosing to reach out anyway. You are opening a door. And on the other side of that door are people who can walk with you, who can support you, not by fixing everything, but simply by reminding you that you don't have to go through it alone. It might be a friend, a family member, a counselor, a therapist, or even a support group. The who doesn't matter as much as the act of reaching out, because depression isolates. It convinces you that no one can help. But when you speak up, you begin to challenge that belief. You begin to hear voices that aren't the ones in your head, voices that speak truth, empathy, and care. And here's something even more important. When you ask for help, you give other people permission to do the same. Vulnerability is contagious in the best way. When one person shares their struggle, others feel safe to share theirs. And suddenly, we're not hiding anymore, we're connecting. And connection is the most powerful medicine we have. It's okay to not have the words at first. You don't need to explain everything perfectly. You don't need to justify your pain. You just need to start a message, a conversation, even just saying, "I don't know what to do, but I know I can't do this alone." That's enough. That's more than enough. We were never meant to carry everything by ourselves. And when you let others in, when you share the burden, it doesn't make you less. It makes you more human, more whole, more real. Healing doesn't happen in isolation. It happens in relationship, and it starts with the decision to say, "I need help." One of the hardest parts about depression is the way it makes even the smallest tasks feel impossible. Things that used to be automatic, getting out of bed, brushing your teeth, answering a message, now feel like mountains. And when you can't do what used to be easy, you start to question everything about yourself. You feel lazy, weak, broken. But the truth is, you're not any of those things. You're carrying an invisible weight. And when you're carrying that kind of weight, even a small step forward is a victory. Healing doesn't begin with huge, sweeping change. It begins with the smallest, quietest choice. Do one thing, just one. Maybe it's making your bed. Maybe it's opening the window. Maybe it's taking a shower or stepping outside for 2 minutes. These things don't seem like much, but they are everything, because when you're in the grip of depression, action is resistance. Movement is rebellion. It's a way of saying, "You haven't beaten me, not today." We often think that progress only counts if it's dramatic. But real change isn't loud. It's built in moments. It's built in small habits. It's built in simple routines that give you structure and remind your brain what safety, consistency, and care feel like. And the truth is, the brain responds to patterns. So if you can create even one positive pattern, no matter how small, it begins to shift your internal narrative. You stop seeing yourself as powerless and start seeing yourself as someone who is still trying. And trying is strength. It's important to remember that this process won't feel good at first. It might not feel like anything at all. You won't necessarily feel proud or energized. In fact, you might feel numb. That's okay. The goal isn't to feel better instantly. It's to act even when you don't feel anything. Because action creates momentum, and momentum creates space for change. This is why routines can be so powerful. Not because they fix everything, but because they anchor you. They give your day structure when your mind feels chaotic. Something as simple as waking up at the same time, eating at regular intervals, or walking for 5 minutes a day can begin to reconnect you with your body, with the world, and eventually with purpose. It's also why grace is so important. You will have days when you can't do the thing, when it's too heavy, when it feels like the darkness has returned in full force. That doesn't mean you failed. That doesn't erase your progress. It just means you rest, and tomorrow you try again. Healing is not linear. It's not clean, but it is possible, and it starts with the tiniest of decisions. Not to fix your whole life, but to take one small step forward. Then another, then another. Over time, those steps become a path. And that path leads you somewhere depression told you you'd never reach. Hope, one of the deepest traps depression sets, is that it convinces you it's not just something you're feeling. It convinces you it's who you are. That this heaviness, this numbness, this hopelessness is somehow your new personality. And when you start to believe that, you stop imagining a future without it. You stop thinking of healing as a return to yourself and start thinking of depression as your new normal. But this isn't true. Depression is something you're going through. It's not the sum of who you are. Just like we don't say a person is cancer or is a broken arm, we shouldn't say someone is depression. You have depression, you feel depression, but you are still you. That distinction matters, because identity is powerful. What you believe about yourself shapes your behavior, your thoughts, and your choices. And if you believe you are depression, then you'll live as though it's permanent, unchangeable, and inescapable. But if you begin to separate your identity from your struggle, you create space for hope. You create space for the possibility of change. You are more than what your mind tells you in your lowest moments. You are more than the darkness that clouds your thinking. You are a person with memories, values, dreams, talents, and potential. You are someone who has laughed, loved, helped others, and been resilient in ways you may have forgotten. Depression might be visiting your life right now, but it doesn't get to rewrite your whole story. It is a chapter, not the entire book, and even if it's been there for a long time, even if it feels like it's part of your DNA, there is still a version of you beneath it. Maybe it's buried, maybe it's quiet. Maybe you haven't felt it in years, but it's still there. Your identity is not erased by your pain. It's just obscured by it. And part of healing is remembering who you were before depression told you who you are. That's why moments of joy, even small ones, are so important. A smile, a memory, a song that stirs something inside you. These aren't just nice feelings. They're reminders. Reminders that you are still capable of experiencing life. That there is a spark inside you that hasn't gone out. Depression wants to convince you that spark is gone, but it's not. It's just covered up, and it can be uncovered. So when the voice in your head tries to tell you that you're just a sad person, a broken person, a hopeless person, pause. Challenge it, because it's not telling the truth. The truth is, you are still becoming, you are still evolving, and depression, as real and as painful as it is, does not define you. There's something quiet but incredibly powerful about survival. When you're living with depression, you don't often get credit for enduring. No one throws you a celebration because you got out of bed. No one sees the effort it takes to show up to work, to answer a text, to breathe through another day. But I want you to hear this. The fact that you're still here means something. It means you haven't given up. It means that even in your darkest moments you held on to something, even if it was just a thread. That thread, that's hope. It might not feel like hope. It might feel like stubbornness or numbness or survival instinct. But underneath it, there's a quiet belief that maybe, just maybe, things could be different. And that belief is everything, because hope isn't loud. It doesn't always arrive in inspirational quotes or emotional breakthroughs. Sometimes it's just a decision not to quit, a decision to keep showing up, a decision to wait and see what tomorrow holds. And that's why your presence, right now, today, is meaningful. It's proof that you are stronger than you know. Depression might tell you that your future is already written, that the pain you feel now is all there ever will be, but that's a lie. You are still writing your story, and every page you turn, every moment you endure adds something new. It adds depth, it adds resilience, it adds the possibility of something more. It's okay if you don't see the bigger picture yet. It's okay if all you can do today is survive. That counts, because every day you survive is one more chance for change, one more opportunity for healing, one more crack for the light to get in. You don't need to know exactly where you're going. You just need to keep going. And maybe someday, not too far from now, you'll look back and realize that the chapter you were so sure would break you was the one that shaped you, the one that taught you how to feel again, how to connect again, how to live again. Not in spite of the pain, but because you found meaning inside of it. Your life has value, even when you can't feel it. Your story has worth, even when you can't see it. And your existence is not an accident. If you're still here, there's still purpose, there's still possibility, and yes, there is still hope. Don't measure your life by how bright it looks. Measure it by how bravely you've walked through the dark. And if you're walking through it now, just know, you're not alone and you're not finished. You are still becoming, and the best parts of your story may not have even begun yet.